that's like a separate skill.
It's a separate sin, not a skill. This can go here. I just move this back, this over, this here. Welcome to the arena. This is a show where we play and talk about esports or competitive, or more broadly, competitive gaming. I am your host, Eric Kirsting. PhD student at UW Milwaukee. It's a beautiful day. It's like 40 degrees. I walked here. It was nice. And I'm joined
by me, Janelle Malagon, also a PhD student here. Also very nice out. It's very springish.
Yes. It's February 3rd, by the way.
Yeah. What is winter? Also, is our camera gone?
What? Uh-oh.
Oh no, we're ghosts.
We're ghosts. We're making
mystery ghosts. I think it, remember with the audio layer? Is that what it is? No. Okay.
Well, one sec. Oh, there.
Oh.
Wait.
No.
That's not the right camera. That's
you?
This camera.
What's happening?
Well, here, now you can see us as I try to solve this problem. There we go. There I am.
Hello.
Janelle's behind me somewhere.
There we go.
I'm like moving it away from you. Alright, so I need the Brio, which I put at the bottom. There we are. Okay.
Hello.
So
alright,
we're going to take up the bottom left-hand side of your screen today. And chat, if you have any questions while we're hanging out, feel free to ask. If you're watching this after the fact, join us live so you can ask questions, because I'm not going to answer your YouTube comments. YouTube comments are a terrible place.
That's fair, yeah.
Just kidding. I probably would answer your YouTube comments too. So
please comment on our YouTube. Like it's open begging.
Yeah. Last month we did speedrunning month. I think we had some really good discussion.
Yeah.
This month we are going to be thinking about, instead of thinking about genres of games like speedrunning or fighting game month or Hearthstone month. Hearthstone's its own genre.
That's true.
There's no other card games.
Zero.
Instead of thinking about games from that kind of perspective, in terms of the genres of play, we're going to be investigating this February more genre, or how play is formatted. So you could almost describe it as kind of like metagaming, but I don't think that that's a great way of describing it. It's more like meta scheduling. And so these first 2 weeks we're going to be looking at competitive play and how it is organized, and we're going to be looking at two really specific events, I think, because next week we're going to be focusing on Overwatch League. So what does it look like for an esport to be organized into league play? How does that change the way that the viewer relates to the product? And then the same thing with tournaments, which are, as opposed to league play, are a different way that competition can be organized. The last 2 weeks of the month, I think we're going to focus more on how does matchmaking or lobbying, or how does one play, how does the way that one gets into a game, if they're the player, impact them. So is it different to, I'm thinking maybe we'll play Team Fortress 2, which is a game where cool. I know it has matchmaking now, but when I played it in 2011, I would just go into a lobby and I'd have my favorite server, right, that I would go on every week.
Yep.
And that was still or every week. I played every Sunday afternoon, every day, let's just be honest. And so we'll be investigating that more in the later part of the month, and we'll figure out exactly what we're doing. But for these first 2 months, we're going to be focusing on this Smash tournament, and we'll probably Overwatch League next week, assuming Janelle wants to do that. And so let's get into a little bit what we're going to be watching today. So we're going to be watching Genesis 7, which is a Super Smash Bros. Tournament that aired not yesterday, but the weekend before. Mm-hmm. So Pro Bowl weekend if you're an NFL fan, or just another normal weekend if you're anybody else. Let's get into a little bit of context about the game that's being played. So this is the best esport of all time.
Official.
Best esport of all time besides StarCraft 1.
Noise.
There's StarCraft 1 and there's Super Smash Bros. Melee. Anything else that came after is just aping off of them.
Just garbage.
There's Street Fighter 2 as well. And those are great. Don't come in here and talk that League shit. League of Legends isn't that good.
People around the country are going, no.
Yes, all 10,000 of our viewers. So, Super Smash Bros. Melee is a fighting game for the Nintendo GameCube. Can also be played on a Wii because the Wii is backwards compatibility. Important because the Wii sold a lot better than the GameCube. That's why it's important to acknowledge this. Oops, I dropped my ring. There we go.
Oh, no.
Super Smash Bros. Melee came out in 2001. It almost immediately garnered a following in terms of a competitive scene, and it was a more of a kind of niche kind of esport. Now, to be fair, I think the early 2000s and mid 2000s I wouldn't call them the dark ages, but they weren't exactly poppin' when it came to esports.
Yeah.
You've got the rise of esports in Korea with StarCraft 1, and you've got some stuff going on with Counter-Strike at that time, as well as
Mm-hmm.
you've got EVO starting out, so you've got something for fighting games. But it's worth noting that this game really wasn't even at EVO in the mid-2000s. The biggest esport idea that was going on at the time was definitely Major League Gaming, MLG, which this game was featured in MLG broadcasts and MLG events. It's too bad we don't really have as much of an MLG anymore, because I think that MLG is an interesting caveat to what we're talking about today, which is tournaments, which is oftentimes there'd be an MLG event, it'd be MLG Atlanta. This would be 2009 or something, or 2010 we'll say. And there'd be StarCraft 2, Halo 3, it'd be all these weird amalgamation of games, and it'd be this weird way that everyone who's playing competitive games kind of comes together. Whereas now I think competitive gaming has grown to the point where that kind of event is much less likely to occur. There are the DreamHack events, which fill a similar niche.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late.
No, you're good.
It's okay.
Welcome.
But now we tend to see more tournament play being organized around a game or a set genre game. So you're thinking of something like EVO, which is just fighting games. It's this big fighting game thing. Or Genesis, which was just platform fighters, as we might say, or basically just a Smash tournament. There was Rivals of Aether, which is this competitive game on Steam that is a platform fighter, which means it fills the same genre of fighting games, so subgenre of fighting games that Smash is. Platform fighter, of course, is a game where, as we can see here, there's platforms, and the characters are much smaller. Whereas if we compare this to let's just look up Street Fighter for a sec, because this will really show the difference. Look at how big the characters are in comparison to this screen. I don't know what that is. That's a weird Blanca, okay? Look at how small the characters are in this screen. Because, they've got so much room to move around, and you die by falling off the stage. That, and, this is really Smash is the only platform fighter for real. Rivals of Aether is also one.
I mean, there are others, as you say, Rivals of Aether is becoming, a thing,
Yeah. There are other ones, but none of them have managed to capture people's imagination in the way that Smash has.
Sure,
most of them tend to be trying to, trying to fix themselves to Smash in some way. So it's it's not when the new Guilty Gear comes out, it's not look, we're remodeling Street Fighter 2, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
even though it is.
Sure.
But when something else that comes out another platform fighter, it's it instantly compared to Smash.
No, sure, it's the canonical platform fighter.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the spirit of the platform fighter genre.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
definitely.
Oh my God.
I'm using your thing against you.
Yeah, you're not using it against me because I agree with you.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense, Daniel. And so, Melee is a long and storied history as a fighting game. It went through its own dark ages, since we already used that term once this stream. When Super Smash Bros. Brawl came out. But Brawl was a much slower game and lacked a lot of the technical nuance of this game. And thus, after a couple of years, this game continued to live. And people were just so passionate they wanted to have events around it.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Brawl kind of died away. And by the time that the next Smash game, Smash 4, came out, they kind of coexisted. And then we're still in that kind of phase now where Smash Melee and Smash Ultimate kind of coexist. And there's a lot of events like Super Smash Con, Genesis. Next month there will be Frostbite, Pound. Like there's a lot of different tournaments that both feature Melee and Ultimate. I was really surprised last year that Melee was cut from EVO, the biggest fighting game of the year, in part because Melee had the second highest viewership of any game at EVO besides Street Fighter, which is Street Fighter is the EVO game. Like, there's always going to be Street Fighter EVO. So it was kind of weird to see them cut it, but I think they cut it because they had Smash Ultimate as well, and they didn't want to have two Smash games, I guess, on their.
But do you think that is a good idea, like cutting Melee from EVO?
I personally don't think it was a good idea, but I think it was more. You have to think of like. There's a lot more cross-pollination between all the other fighting games communities, and then Smash is its own insular thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're like a Tekken player, there's more of a chance that you are interested as well in Street Fighter, and less of a chance that you're interested in Smash. And EVO wants to market itself as a game, as a competition or a competition series that's for all fighting game fans. And so, having two Smash games might infer to like some audience members of some sort of privilege because those communities are so insular in comparison to the rest of them who are more, there's more just, people playing crossing games. Like Justin Wong, for instance, one of the best Street Fighter players of all time. It's also one of the best Marvel vs. Capcom players of all time. Sonic Fox, who's one of the best Street Fighter players of all time, is also a great Mortal Kombat player, is also a great Dragon Ball FighterZ player. And meanwhile, I can only think of like one player who's great at Smash and great at another fighting game that's not a platform fighter, which is Leffen, who got top 5, top 8, I think, at an EVO. And he's actually in this tournament. We'll see him in our first game that we're going to watch today.
So then, would you say that the platform fighter, or rather, Ace, basically, Smash. So would you say then that the skills that you need to be really good at Smash are, I hesitate to say too different, but different enough from more traditional fighting games that's why there isn't as much like cross-pollination, like you said?
I think it could be related to the skills needed, though I think a lot of the fundamental skills are still the same, which is like blocking, tech chasing, advantage and disadvantage states, reaction being incredibly important, combos. All of those skills translate readily between all fighting games, and that's what makes Smash a fighting game. Like, there's some people within the fighting game community who are so far as to say Smash isn't a fighting game. They're dumb. But I think I'd almost put it more in the reverse, and this isn't poo-pooing any other fighting game fans. I think that it's harder to go from any other fighting game to Smash. It's like the opposite problem. I think Smash actually translates more easily into other fighting games because I don't want to say other fighting games are simpler than Smash, but Smash contains a lot of things that they contain, but it has other stuff on top of it. Doesn't mean it's more complicated. It just has other things going on that other fighting games don't have to worry about.
I wish Dave was here.
Who?
Dave. To argue with you against that.
Well,
we do have someone in chat.
Hey, Ati.
Oh, it's Ati.
Hey, Ati.
I mean, I assume it's our Ati, but so the big thing that we want to talk about for this month, of course, is the format. So almost all fighting games are played in tournament format. Even fighting games that have leagues are played in tournament format. So like I'm thinking about like the Capcom Cup, or the Capcom Tour rather. It is a league where they invite players to like come to all these events around the world, and then what do? They have a tournament that weekend, like right, like it's not like where like it's like and like you get points based on how good you did on the tournament. So like they still do a tournament, and so tournaments are really popular in fighting games. They're quite popular in most 1v1 games, I would generally say. So like StarCraft caps off its year with a tournament, and in fact StarCraft has leagues, but the leagues are organized around tournaments. It's like a tournament style of play.
Okay.
And so I want to just quickly define these two. It's me, folks. Okay, it's not to you. There's different ways of organizing a tournament itself, but the difference between a tournament and a league is in a league you have a set amount of players or teams, and they all are going to fight each other, or there's going to be they're going to be playing against each other and seeing who has the best score at the end of the season, right? And so like in that case, one loss is not really that big of a deal, and
Sure.
in like the broad scheme of things, because like a team can go like, let's say, 16-2, right? That's their record. They played 18 games and they won 16. That's a really good record. Like sometimes you lose. Tournaments really require obviously a lot more precision because you often don't have a measurement for that room for error.
Yeah.
In the case for this tournament, we see what is very common in a lot of tournaments, which is a winner's bracket and loser's bracket. A winner's bracket is where it's just people who haven't lost yet are playing all against each other. And winners finals, which we'll see later. Maybe I'll full screen this for now, just so that way we can't see. You guys don't get spoiled. But like a winners finals would be the final game of the winners bracket. And then you got the losers brackets. That's all the people who've lost a game, and they all play each other. And at that point, if you lose, you're out, right? There's no losers bracket. But then eventually, the winner of the losers bracket will face off again against the person in the winners bracket. Now, this is where things get a little funky. Some tournaments, like Dota 2 and the International is a tournament, will actually structure it so that the person coming from losers bracket just has to play one best of 5 against the other team. Like this is the championship run. A game like Smash, on the other hand, the grand finals, the person from the losers bracket will have to send the person from the winners bracket to the losers bracket to reset the bracket, so to speak, and then they play another best of 5. So that gives the person in winners obviously a huge advantage, right? As opposed to just playing like one set, because then the other person has to beat them in a sense twice. Tournaments, I think, make sense for games with that. Generally, you're going to see a lot of games coming out of a tournament, or with lots of players, or lots of teams. So, for instance, this tournament had this Genesis 7 Melee. I believe had over 2,000 entrants, just over 2,000. If you're imagining playing 2,000 people in like some sort of league format, like they're not gonna, like they all play each other. That's over 2,000 games, right? That's like absurd. So you have to have a different way of organizing the competition to accommodate for all of these players. Typically speaking, you might see like there'll sometimes be like an invitational event with a game like Melee or a Smash game or a fighting game. And an invitational, it might start off with some kind of league play because there'll only be like 16 players or 32 players. And then after like that stage of like league play, that determines seeds for the tournament later on in the weekend because there's so many less games to be played. One final note before we kind of dive into this, we're going to be watching the top 8. Now, the top 8 is like a traditional way that fighting games will structure their tournaments in terms of the viewership experience. And so what top 8 means is basically like the tournament will play out on Saturday, typically, to the top 8. And then they'll be cut off. The top 8 players have been decided, or rather have won their way into the top 8. And then the next day, they'll play every game of the top 8. That happens like at EVO, that happens here at Genesis. It just tends to be like the way these tournaments like to format each other. I think it's partially because they want to have like the championship of each game one after another, right? So it's like the top 8 of this game, top 8 of the game, top 8 of the next game, and so on and so forth. And so we're interested in the top 8 of Genesis 7 Melee specifically. Now, we won't be able to watch all of the top 8. I timed it, and it is 3 hours long. So like we're only a 2-hour show, and we've already burned 20 of our minutes talking about tournament play. But I think we can watch we're gonna watch, I think, winners semifinals. So both winners semifinals. We'll watch winners finals, and then we'll see where we're at, and then we'll watch some losers bracket sets.
Nice.
So our first set here, to give us some backdrop, is between Leffen and Mango. Now, one thing we'll note is that tournaments can really bring out some differences. And Leffen's like this European, guy. Mango's this American guy, and they really wear that on their sleeve. They really look more European and look very American, so to speak. Mango is, of course, probably the most. I say, of course, a lot today, I guess. Mango is one of the most popular Smash players and Smash streamers. His streams regularly get like in the thousands of views. So like very popular streamer. Leffen's pretty popular too. Leffen is also very good at multiple fighting games, whereas Mango has basically only ever played Melee. Okay. But we see at the very bottom here, we can already see like one of the main stages of a tournament is there's some banning. So like they're banning stages in this case. So like Melee has just a set of Melee is a really cool, I think, great way of setting up tournament stages. There are 5 legal stages, basically, from what I understand. Oh no, there's more than 5. There's 6 or 7. But basically,
the guy's wearing flip flops.
yeah.
He's so. I mean, also like Mango is a more senior Smash player. Leffen started later, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's featured in the documentary Mango. Like
Yeah.
he's one of the characters of the
Yeah,
documentary.
so the documentary you're referring to
Yeah.
is there's a documentary about Smash that came out like 2013, and Mango is in the documentary because he started winning tournaments like 2008, 2009-ish area.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and he's a very interesting figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
to say the least.
what I want to do is I'll take any questions you guys have about tournaments while we watch this, and I'll try to commentate on like the play as it is, like what makes Melee kind of special, and I'll probably do some pausing and stuff. So we've got kind of one of the Melee, like marquee matchups here, which is between Fox and Falco. So Falco's the bird, Fox is the fox. These are both characters from the Star Fox series, and they're actually very similar. You could even say that Falco is a clone of Fox, because Falco was added in this game and Fox was from the other one. But when it comes to the highest level of play, especially in a game as old and as refined as Melee,
Ooh.
that was pretty good. So that gives us one of our first things that makes Melee a great game, is edge guarding. And so we see here, he gets the shine and he pops him up. Now Falco's trying to recover. So Mango reads the recovery here, and so he thinks that he's gonna jump. So he comes down and shines. Now what makes shine so good? Shine is a really small hitbox, like it's only this, right? It doesn't like throw out like a foot over here. But what makes shine so good is that it comes out on frame 1. It's like the only move in the game that comes out right when you press the button. There's no delay, and it's got really low ending lag. So like you can just kind of pop it up. So he goes to read the jump, he misses it, and then he does a full hop back, or I guess just a jump back. And Leffen's trying to dash over to here with one of Falco's moves, and we see, wow, it's so fast, like it almost like you almost miss it. But he jumped down, back aired, and now he's trying to come up. Now one of the things about Melee that's really, really important to know in comparison to other Smash games, 2 people cannot have the ledge at the same time.
Okay.
Since this game, the rules have changed. But this is a great rule, I think, because it makes the ledge such a crucial thing. So he's going to go for the ledge. And Mango, he's got 2 options. He can go for the ledge, try to trump him, because if he's grabbing the ledge, then he'll just fall to his death.
Leffen is Fox.
Yeah, I think that there's switched.
Oh, you're right. Whoops, sorry. Leffen is here, and Mango, sorry. In a later set, Mango will be playing Fox. And so he's going to try to go, but he could go grab the ledge, or he could go down and just shine. So, like, comes up frame 1, and then he jumps, and he gets back on the stage.
Yeah, it was smooth.
So one thing you'll see the players doing sometimes is this thing called, a glitch in the game, actually, called wave dashing. And what wave dashing is, we'll see if we can catch a player doing it.
I have a question about the tournament.
Yeah, go ahead.
They are playing in different displays, right?
Yes, they are. The displays are set up differently. Some games, like the players will be playing on the same screen. In this case, they're like kind of, and I think it's almost more for the audience, the live audience, is like they're like facing each other. Like it's kind of like more of an arena kind of setup.
Yeah. What do you think about it? Like, I mean, because I feel that like playing like shoulder to shoulder with your opponent has a different component of like sportsmanship or pressure. You know what I mean? Like, so I want to know what you guys think about it.
I feel like I wish Ryan was here. I feel like he'd have something smart to say about that. I think that you're right, and I think that it'd be very different if, say, you and I were playing, and we were sitting here next to each other, and we're just like, right? Like, there's a kind of like physicality to it that I don't think that you have. It's just,
Of course, it's probably against.
It's part of the game, like don't blame the player, blame the game.
Yeah.
Oh my god, just slap it out of their hand.
To be fair, I think every tournament would probably ban like hitting somebody else's controller controllers out of their hand.
Overt controller slapping. Not allowed.
Yeah.
I think that's like an immediate bar. Like you get kicked out of the tournament.
Mixed martial arts. You know, like have Smash, have like
That's so good.
Jiu-Jitsu.
But I think you're right. Like I think that the traditional way you play games, right, is you're both together looking at the same screen.
Yeah.
I do think that from a competitive standpoint, it is actually worthwhile to separate the competitors, because there is, especially in a game like Melee, there actually is information that would be otherwise hidden to the player that they can gain from looking at the other player's controller.
Okay.
And so if you think that information should be open, I guess that's fine. But I think that a lot of players would say that information shouldn't be open.
But at the same time, like if you think about it historically, like for example, if you take Ultimate or like a more like contemporary game that you like play online, like you have different types of multiplayer. Like when Melee came out, like the only way to like domestically play like multiplayer was like in the same screen, right?
Yeah.
So they have to like this is kind of a mod to the original game in order, because like setting up like this is not like how most players used to do it like in 2001, you know?
I think when it comes to Melee, we really can't make any arguments about the way the game was intended to be played.
Sure.
Because this game is not meant to be played competitively.
At all.
At all. It was like not designed at all for the purpose of that it is. Sakurai, the creator of the game, has called these players maniacs.
Okay,
And like it's meant to be a party game. But it just happens to be like this amazing game with like so much like competitive depth.
Okay.
And so I think like being like, well, the game, was intended to, it wasn't meant to be played with people on different screens. It's like, well, it wasn't meant to be played with no items on, or with only these 7 stages out of like the 50 that are in the game, right? Because like the other game stages would have hazards or stuff.
Is that wave dashing?
No, that's dash dancing.
Okay. Oh yeah. Sure.
So. So I'll explain. Yeah. So Melee is like a flashy and very fast game.
Yeah.
And so combos can come really quick. And so you can see it right now. Both players are playing in like the neutral game. All right. So Mango SD'd there. Self-destructed, which is something you can't do in a normal fighting game. Normally your opponent has to punch you. Yeah. But in this game you can just walk off the edge and die, and that's what Mango did. And so you see that basically they're both kind of jockeying for position and both trying to kind of maintain center stage, generally speaking. Because obviously you don't want to get knocked off. Because there's what I talked about a little bit earlier is advantage and disadvantage states. And we talked about a little in other streams of ours before. But suffice to say, an advantage state is where your options are more than your opponent's. A disadvantage state is obviously the opposite, where you have less options than the opponent. Being off the level or at the ledge is much, much worse because you have so much less options, right?
Yeah.
And so the opponent just has to read one right move rather than your 3. Like let's say you only have 5 right like possible ways to get back on the stage or to come off the ledge, right? That means your opponent has, if they might have one thing that reads 2 of those options, go for it. If they guess correctly, you're screwed.
Sure.
But in the neutral, you could do so much. If you're in the middle of the stage, you could dash back, you could dash forward, you could jump, right? There's so many different, and like the amount of distance that you go for each of those is very different. So
I have another question about the tournament.
Yes. So Mango wins that one 3-0, which is crazy because Leffen beat him 2-0, the other one. Okay.
2 questions actually. First question. Tournaments are not the main source of income to those players, right?
It depends on the players.
I think it also depends on the time period.
But yes, especially in the Smash community, players get money from being sponsored and by streaming probably more than they do, and from making like YouTube content and stuff than they do from tournaments. For the most part, I would say that there are some players who make their money mostly from tournament play, but like. A good example of this is like Zero, who won like every tournament for a year in Smash 4, like one of the greatest Smash players of all time. Zero said that he made more money like in like 3 months of YouTube like last year than he did in his year of winning tournaments.
That sounds about right.
And so, you kind of gotta Yeah, I would say the tournaments are almost for like prestige and for building your brand almost if you win to some degree, right? Like if you're winning every tournament, people want to see you practice and want to see you playing on other streams.
It's almost like I think prestige is a really good word for it.
Yes.
There's a prestige element to winning tournaments and being known as someone that wins tournaments.
And then parlaying that into some kind of monetary value.
Exactly, because then the way that you're really making money most times is through Twitch and YouTube. And so if you can build your brand on being the number one player of a game based on all these tournaments and awards and stuff, Twitch is accessible, whereas going to a tournament isn't.
This is pretty interesting. I mean, thinking about.
I wanted to show you a wave dash.
Yeah.
So wave dash is when you do a directional air dodge into the ground. So see that where he ducked down and then suddenly moved just slightly back. Mm-hmm. That's a wave dash. So I might think, well, why not just move backwards? The difference is when you do normal movements, there's a little bit of a lag between when you can move and do a move. When you wave dash, you can just do a move out of a wave dash immediately.
Gotcha.
Which means that even though it's more technical to pull off and there's times where you just want to run. It's slower than just running, generally speaking.
Sure.
But being able to wave dash, one of the biggest things you'll see is someone wave dash back and then use some sort of smash attack or strong move. And the reason why is the strong move might outrange the other person's moves. It's like the other person throws out a jab, which would normally beat out your strong move because it's slower. But if you wave dash back, then their quick short move misses, and then you hit with the other move because you had enough time to react. And so we see here, Mango kind of is sitting there, and now he's doing a little bit. He wave dashes backwards, shines, and then gets does a double jump back air, and then that manages to kill. And so that's like an example of that wave dash was the only reason he was able to do that. If he tried to dash that way, he wouldn't have been able to get the thing off. It's one of the reasons why these characters are considered some of the best in the game. It's because they're very fast and they have a very fast move, specifically Shine, comes out frame 1. Which means wave dash Shine is just this crazy thing, right, that comes out so fast. It can so any combo you can get out of Shine is just so much better as a result.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and speed it back up. And I'll try to commentate a little bit this game. So we got 3 stocks of 3 stocks.
Oh my god, now
it's so much faster.
Yeah, this is the speed of the actual game, right?
Yeah.
And so you see the shield there, right? Mango's holding the shield, and you got both players are kind of jockeying for middle control, trying to get a stray hits for the most part because they're both trying to avoid it. So there, the back air manages to kill the Falco. Now Mango drops down trying to get him off the ledge. Now he's getting a big combo off in the middle of the stage. This is one of the things people love about Melee is it's got crazy technical and fast combos. And then it's got what's called a tech chase. And so let's talk about a tech chase because we just saw one. And I think understanding tech chases is really important to understanding Melee. So let's go ahead and slow it down. I wonder what the command is to slow it down by 5. So I don't have to click it every time. So Mango's got he's got a combo going here. This is not a tech chase technically, but here's where we have a tech chase happen. So Leffen gets up, tries to go for a shine, gets hit by something, rolls into the middle, and this is where the combo starts. He gets an up air. Now, Mango DIs to the left and misses the tech. What missing the tech means is that when you hit the ground, if you hit the shield button in a direction or hit the shield button with no direction, you'll either roll to the left or right or stand up right away. Okay. Mango missed the tech because we see that he's falling on his ass. He's not he's not rolling in any direction. Right. So, but you have to press the shield button on like a 5-frame window. So it's really precise. But if you miss it, you're gonna get hurt. Right. So Leffen jab locks him. What that means is when someone has missed their tech, if you punch them, it'll do the damage, and then you get a chance to do your next move. So then he wave dashes forward. He predicts that Mango's going to do a normal get up, and he predicted that Mango would do a get up attack because he shielded. He thought that he would get hit by the shield, but regardless, he gets the grab, and now he throws him up, and Mango DIs to the left, which means Mango tries to go to the left. He gets an up smash here. Now this is where the real tech chase begins. So then Mango predicts that he's going to tech in place. Or he's going to roll. I guess that was not a pure tech chase. And then another tech right. So both of those, Mango's predicting which way the other person's going to tech. Because the person could have teched in one of 3 ways, right? Up, or straight, up, left, or right. Okay. And so Melee combos tend to be reducible down to tech chases. Now the thing is there's a difference between 2 different kinds of tech chases. There's on-reaction tech chases and predicting tech chases. In this case, I'm pretty sure Leffen is predicting the tech chase. Because But an on reaction would be basically like I'm able to wait until you do something, and then on reaction I punish whatever you decided. Okay. A prediction would be like, oh, I'm gonna bet that you're going to this spot. And I'm trying to and oftentimes what you'll do is you'll condition somebody, and so what that'll mean is conditioning them is like, okay, every time you roll in you get hit. And the last 3 times you rolled in and got hit, so I'm going to predict that you were going to roll away now, and I'm going to go. I'll cover that option. Generally speaking, like that can be part of the game. So let's keep watching. And so now they're back. They're not in neutral, and so that was a spike. So that's a move that will send them straight down. And that's one of the differences between the characters is that Falco has a spike, and Fox does not.
I see.
But Fox has a better up air, so Fox can kill off the top better, and Mango is Falco. Falco can kill off the bottom a little bit easier, as well as Falcon can have some really crazy what are called ladder combos, where you spike someone into the ground, they pop back up, and you just keep down airing them into the ground, which are really. So now we're 1 stock apiece. This is what people love this. It's like. The game has come down to who can take this last stop. Now, obviously, Leffen is, as we can tell on the bottom, a little behind. There we see a really, really good punish by Mango. Let's watch that one more time. So, and this is why this is a fighting game. So we see here, like in every fighting game, there's like what's called like a punish on blocks. Like if your opponent does something to your shield, or when you're blocking, you can react to it and like get some sort of punish off. And so here, Leffen's going to run up and up smash. Up smash is a good kill move, and it wouldn't kill probably this %, but it would put him into a bad disadvantage state. But it's not very safe because it's one of the smash attacks. It's one of the slower moves. So he does the smash. You see already here, Mango's already dropping shield. He already knows that he's got him. He does a shine. He jumps. He does a back air. I don't. The back air might have missed. I think it hit it, but it popped him over here. He does the shine to do a little more damage, and then he does the down air, and then...
Which is the spike, right?
Yeah, but that's the spike, and then that's the game.
And they go in the crowd.
You see, the crowd is going kind of crazy, because that's a wild combo. The thing about Melee that people really like, the people who play it at least, and the people who watch it, is that it's more like I've heard it described as kind of like a free-form jazz kind of game. And the reason for that is, most fighting games, you can do the same combo at the same damage to your opponent full stop, right? Your opponent's like with Sakura in Street Fighter, I can always do my bread and butter combo, so to speak. That combo will always work. In Smash, the higher your %, the more you get knocked back. And what that means is you have to adjust your combos to their %, because a move that you could have comboed or strung some stuff together before no longer works at later %. And on top of that, there's this thing called DI, which is abbreviated directional influence. That means that when you get hit, you don't left or right, and it'll adjust where you go. So there's always, and this is why I'm writing a paper about combos in Smash, and combos as a way of understanding fighting games, is because specifically in combos in Smash, there's always contingency in every single combo because your opponent can DI differently. And you can throw out maybe one option that covers certain DI or covers all DI, but sometimes you don't know, and you have to adjust to where the DI is going to be. And what that means is that a lot of times, like that combo that Mango pulled off there, he maybe has pulled it off before, but maybe not. It didn't look exactly like that. Sure. Or that's a completely new combo that he just made up on the spot. As opposed to in Street Fighter, where no matter how awesome or flashy the combo is, it is not something that the player made up right then and there as a reaction to what's going on. Instead, it is something that they've practiced in practice mode many, many times.
So do you feel that games like Smash offer more opportunities for like creative gameplay because there aren't like preset combos that's like, if I do such a combination in Street Fighter, I will produce this result like every time? There's that kind of like sureness in that certainty that I feel like that isn't true for this. So you can be more creative. Do you think that's true?
I think it's true up to a certain point. I think that if we're thinking about Thomas Malaby's understanding of contingency in games, and so we're thinking about creativity as a way of manipulating contingency in some ways, right? Then in some ways, there's more possibility for performative contingency because of the possibility for creative movement and combos in these games. But there's always, in every game, social contingency. It's this betting on what the opponent is going to do, or there's always a chance that what they're going to do is going to change, and how do you react to that? And I don't think that is necessarily meaningfully different between Smash and, like, say, Street Fighter or something like that. So there, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Just another thought. I feel that, like, in Smash, you have more puzzle pieces to make up the gameplay. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I believe that DI also like each character has also, like, a weight.
A weight, yeah.
So this is another thing.
Combo doesn't work on every character.
Yeah, so you have in, like, now in Ultimate, how many characters are there? Like 100 and
No, there's like 70.
Oh, 70. Yeah, sure, but
I mean,
it's a
like
lot.
70.
70 is obviously a lot. It's just, I thought it was funny that you, like, you reached for 100 right away. I'm like, no, it's not even.
Okay,
it's
but
not very
anyway,
close to
it's a
100.
lot of characters.
Yeah.
So of course, you have, like, weight, like, windows, like, there are some characters that, like, weigh the same thing, but, like, but my point is, I feel that in Smash there are a lot of, like, variables in play when you have to, like, perform a combo. You know what I mean? Like, not that in other games that those variables are not there, but in Smash I feel that, like, the math that you have to do in your mind in order to, like, be a good player kind of demands you to be able to piece, like, to juggle more balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I think that's a really good analogy for it, because if I'm thinking of a game like Street Fighter, there just isn't as much variability in that. Like, comparatively, I don't have as many things to think about and worry about as I'm playing just me against someone else. I don't have to worry about weight. I don't have to worry about their inputs necessarily, especially if I'm familiar with them or their gameplay or the character. With this, and granted, I haven't played Melee, so my only experience is with Ultimate. But, like, I don't know. I feel like there's way more complexity here just in the game itself, not to mention the kind of level of skill that these different
but, like,
competitors
on the
bring.
other hand, like, other games have other variables. For example,
Yeah.
Street Fighter, you have, like, the super bar, so the
Yeah.
Sure.
players can manage that to do crazy stuff. In Dragon Ball Fighters, you have, like, it's a tag team, so you have, like, other characters that can do other stuff. So you have to manage that as well.
Yeah,
But
I think.
but like, even that, like, even if we take, like, those other mechanics in different games, I feel that Smash, even being, like, a 2001 game like Melee, it still have, like, the brain work that you have to do feels more overwhelming than other games.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily that you have to account for a super bar or that you have to account for different characters that are coming in, but just the core mechanics of the game have complexity. The weight of characters,
The physics.
the physics of it really screw with your understanding of how things work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's worth discussing in the way we are. I think the danger is I think as academics, we don't need to worry necessarily about comparing in terms of more complexity or less complexity between fighting games, but we can just say this is a really complex thing.
Yes.
I think one thing as someone who's played a lot of Smash in their life is you tend to start to get a feel for, like, weight and things of that nature. So, for instance, I play a lot of Pichu in Smash Ultimate, and Pichu's got a really simple later in the percentages combo, which is if you grab someone and throw them straight up and they don't DI, or DI poorly, you can use your Thunder, and the cloud at the very top of the Thunder has a spike, which that means that it will actually shoot them straight down at you. And so you can actually spike them into you, and then they'll fly. Because then it's a confirm. Basically, it's like if I get a grab in these percentages, I can kill you because I throw you up and then I smash you back down. It's a beautiful combo. It's why I love playing Pichu. I think it's a really cool combo and stuff. But what's interesting is, like, I have a feel for the game. That combo only works between, like, 80 and 100% on most characters, maybe a little bit above 100%. But, like, I know instinctually, like, when they're not in that range, to not even look at where they are. Because, like, I know that I've only done about 50 without even looking at the 50. Because I've been playing the game, I know I've hit them this much. And then once I feel it in my bones, like, I'm close to killing them, then I'll do a quick dash look at the percentage. And then I'll change the way I play. I'll be like, oh, now I know grab kills, or grab may kill, so I'm gonna focus on getting the grab now, right? And like that, and so, like, it's often about feel I think with all games, but, like, the weight thing in particular, you tend to just, it's very intuitive, right? Because the other character is going to slowly be moving further and further away every time you hit them because they get higher and higher percent. So I think it'd be much worse if it was like really random. Like imagine if like when their thing is at 6 they fly really far, but at 7 it doesn't, right? That would be unintuitive. Like that'd be impossible for the player to do. So I think there's something to say about field. Let's keep watching for a little bit. So so these are two of the faster characters in the game, and so like a lot of people like they say like these are some of the most fun characters to watch because they got just crazy flashy combos and they move so quick around the stage, and so we got like I love the way that interaction kind of happens in this game because like you can see like it's a big combo, and right now you can just tell that Fox is like trying to get out of the disadvantage. Now it's Falco's turn, right? And then bam, the tide turns so fast. But so like that was a tech chase there because so like I said let's just analyze that tech chase because that ended in a kill. So Mango can either get up attack, roll to the right, or roll to the left. This is really interesting. Now, one thing to note is, right, we've already discussed a lot about how center stage is really important because you have more options. What does Mango want to do? Get to center stage. Leffen believes this, throws out a move, and it might have been on reaction, but throws out a move that goes only towards one of the 4 options that we just discussed, and then it gets the kill. And so, like, there's so much in-baked, like, contingency and, like, even just these littlest of interactions. And so, like, but an easy way of, like, starting to watch this game is to just look at the center of the stage and wonder who has it, and then that person's probably winning right now, at least in terms of what, like, the immediate game state.
Yeah.
And so there we saw that Fox had the mid stage for so long, and now Falco goes and takes the mid stage immediately, but now he doesn't have it, but he manages to get in and get this combo going. Doesn't manage to finish the combo off to get the kill though. And so again, though, Falco goes and takes the middle of the stage, and now, they both kind of messed up there a little bit. But you see again, Falco's got the middle of the stage, trying to get that final kill. Manages to get the combo right where he used the up tilt to pop him up, and then while his opponent was still hit stun or unable to act, he managed to get up and do another move. Here, Fox is doing a tech chase in the middle. You see like that, and so. Like, in some ways, a tech chase is an extended combo, if you think about it. Because, like, it's just not what we call a pure combo. A pure combo, of course, is where this will always work. There's nothing you can do to get out of it. A tech chase is kind of like, in theory, I'm just keeping you in disadvantage.
No.
And so, that's a really interesting predictive moment of it. Like, it's kind of like a tech chase. So, Leffen has the ledge. Mango's coming up high. Now, this move... it can go in 8 directions. So in theory, it could go like here or over there, right? But the safest place often is actually the ledge. Because if you go here, then you're vulnerable for a little bit as you land. And so, in theory, if he goes here, the Fox just jump back here, he's dead. Yep. So he has to make a guessing game. He's betting here that Leffen will jump early and kill him. But what Leffen does instead... is do a normal get up instead of a jump off the ledge. So the jump is the fastest.
Yeah.
But in this case, doing the slower thing is actually better because then he can't get the ledge and he falls to his death. And now we have it 2-2. And this is where tournaments get really exciting, right? The crowd is really tense because like one thing that tournament does really well, and we can see this in like the fact that almost every major sports league in America has a playoff. Right? This isn't true of all sports leagues around the world, like in Europe and stuff, that it isn't true. But for some sports leagues. But the reason why is because playoffs are really exciting. The Super Bowl was yesterday, right? It's exciting to know that the winner of this game is the champion, or that the loser of this game is going down to the loser's bracket, and the winner gets to keep playing on in the winner's bracket, right? It's exciting because it's suddenly everything is just so baked with meaning. And in this case, right, we're suddenly 2-2. 2 of the best players in the world are playing against each other. The winner of this game gets to keep going on in the tournament, gets to go to winners finals. The loser of this game is almost knocked out of the tournament.
I have two more questions.
Yeah.
First question. Is there any rule, like, regarding to doping? Like, for example...
I don't think players
I see that Mango is drinking Red Bull and Leffen is drinking water. Like,
I don't know of any rule in competitive Smash, but those rules like that tend to be more determined in league play.
Yeah.
Right? Because then the integrity of a single tournament based on somebody doping or something like that doesn't necessarily change the semiotic contingency, the meaning of the result. But in a league play, it suddenly really matters if everyone's playing in the same league, but they're not playing by the same rules. Does that make sense? Because like they're playing so much more often, and the league itself has to survive. Whereas in this case, it's just one tournament, and so because it's decentralized organizing of the play, which is most tournament plays are like that. Now there's like the Capcom Pro Tour, which isn't like that, but in Smash, for instance, for the most part, every tournament is run by a different individual or a different organization, and as a result, in this case, it's harder to get like that kind of like those kinds of rules enacted across the board.
okay, so there isn't like a more like regulatory institution that like addresses those problems. Like, but what do you think about it? Like, is doping something that like should be addressed in like esports or fighting games in particular? Is that something that like can make a difference?
Jerk of the Red Bull in the middle of the set. I think it can, especially if you're taking like typically what we'll see in shooting games, which also have a high emphasis on reaction, is players will players will take ADHD medication because it like hones like reaction time and I guess and like focus and stuff like that, and so I think that there's been a push as of late to not do that stuff. I wonder if there are certain games where I'm sure doping is like less effective. I've never heard of doping in Smash, at least, but that's just we're going based on what Eric has heard, not what is necessarily the truth.
Okay.
And so did I kind of answer your question?
Yeah, sure.
It could give a competitive advantage.
I'm not seeking like the truth, but I'm more interested in like your both of you like your take on this subject matter. You know what I mean? Like because
here's what I would say, and I'll if you have a comment now, of course you can make it. I would like to live in a world where people in competitions do not seek to gain advantages in those competitions by doing harm to themselves.
Okay, so come back to let's go back to the real world where people do this all the time.
Yes, I think ideally, our competition should be organized around people not hurting themselves to gain competitive advantage.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It was like enough of a problem in the Overwatch League that they talked about it and that they banned it. So it was enough of an issue to cause a conversation. And I agree. There's no reason for you to dope for a sport.
Well, no, there absolutely is a reason, right? Even if it's a placebo effect, if it's the difference between winning, especially in tournaments, so prize pools are split relatively poorly. In a league, money is distributed relatively evenly across all players. In a tournament setting, the winner will usually take home like half the pot. Yeah. Right. So if it's the difference between making $10,000 and $2,000, right? It's the difference between first and second or the first and eighth. I can see why someone would think, "Oh, I'm going to take this drug because it means $8,000."
Because any edge is an edge.
Especially if we are like counting with this prize money in order to get your livelihood. You know what I mean? Like, just to be clear, I'm not like advocating like pro doping at all. I'm just curious about like what you guys think about the role of those institutions in dealing with doping in esports. You know what I mean? Like, because at the same time that like we are in an ideal world, like doping and hurting yourself should not be like something to think about. Like we're talking about like those players building their brand in order to make more money off YouTube and Twitch, and those players at some time in order to make more money on Twitch and YouTube they have to go crazy hours like streaming, and at some point like it requires like stimulants at some sort. Like it's not healthy to like stay 16 hours in a stream like drinking energizers and whatever. You know what I mean? Like so I like my problem is that at the same time like we're talking about like keeping mental and physical health for the competitive players, for these athletes, you can call it that way. But at the same time, we have like a different part of the industry that really pushes you to your limit in order to like keep the thing rolling, you know. So there are like two sides of the problem, I feel, that have to be addressed, you know what I mean? Like but yeah, it's a complex problem.
Yeah.
So my thinking about that is that if it's a tournament, then whoever the regulating body is responsible for putting together that tournament also has a responsibility to do whatever they have to ensure the safety of their competitors. And therefore, that regulatory body, whoever it is, whoever's putting this together, the people that run Genesis should say, we will not allow this, and if we find out, you're going to get it disqualified automatically. Mm-hmm. And they have whatever series of punishments if you keep doing it, right?
Mm-hmm. But then we run into a problem, which is based on logistics. Just like how we can't have a league with 2,000 players, do you do like, you know, like think about the financial costs for Genesis if they were to do it for all 2,000 players. Do you only do it for the top 8 competitors? You know, like, you know, then like another holistic question is just logistically. Not that we need to get into necessarily how do we solve these logistical problems.
Yeah, sure.
But I agree. I think the legislative body organizing body should have rules in place to help prevent people from harming themselves in a competitive standpoint. One thing you'll often hear, I think, a lot of competitors say as well, is that a lot of these stimulants and things don't necessarily help as much as they're built up to, or that they actually will harm the player. Mango is one of the weird exceptions. Like most players will just drink water. I can think of one other player who would drink like energizing drinks, and that player is like he almost does it as a meme. He will typically have a Red Bull, a glass of water, and a soda, and like in between each one he'll take a sip of each. It's like S2J is a very strange player. He's but Mango's kind of brand almost to a point. It's like I think he might be sponsored by Red Bull or something. But he also like drinks a lot, like alcohol a lot. So like he is known as like that. He has like a lifestyle brand almost in a sense of like promotion in a sense. So Mango's kind of a weird character to to kind of consider in regards to substances because he kind of has just an alternative lifestyle than what we see from most competitive players.
So no, go ahead.
I
was like trying to I was gonna like put my second question, but it's so.
Just to wrap this one up, I think that things like Red Bull don't matter, right? Like have your Red Bull if you want your Red Bull.
People drink Red Bull; they get it at every convenience store in America. I don't think like that's not necessarily as harmful for your body.
No, sure.
Yeah, it's like if you want to have your energy drink, like cool, have your energy drink. I think that once you start introducing things like prescription medication, that's different. If you need that medication and you have a prescription for it, then chill. But if you don't, and you're using a substance for the purpose of gaining that competitive edge, that's where it becomes problematic, whether or not it actually has an effect. It might not literally make you a better player. There's no evidence that shows that's actually true.
Because it would be unethical to test.
Right, so there's that, but it's also like, I'm not necessarily saying this, like, now every single person that wants to go to Genesis, get a drug test first. Like, that's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you need to, like, put any money into it, but even because we're so early in this kind of thing that we're doing, esports is still very young, and it's kind of on.
MLB had a doping scandal 120 years into its existence.
We could just not have that. Like we could just like stop it now. Especially, it's different too because there are, for the most part, like teenagers doing this,
exactly,
as opposed to adults who are capable of making their own decisions. So that's my concern. My concern is that I feel like it's the responsibility of the regulating body to determine what to do with that, but they should do something, because just letting it go quietly produces leagues having issues 120 years into their existence.
Yeah, like, I mean, because every time that we're talking about esports and competition, like, I mean, I'm biased, like, in that way, but I'm always thinking about, like, the power relations and profit and money that goes into that, you know what I mean? And, like, those people being like in a vulnerable position, it's always problematic. Like if you think about, I don't know, like gaming houses like at sometimes can be a problem because it makes like those players living in those houses that they put them at some point in like harmful positions or harmful situations, or situations that are not like that they are not like ready to deal with. Like I mean, it's just a random example. But I'm not gonna go into this. But in my point is like those players like as they become like more like embedded in like this fame and like money and whatever, like they start developing like a way of life that can or cannot be like healthy or harmful for themselves, and they don't know any better, like you know what I mean. So I have a general problem in esports that way, but I'm not gonna go into that. Like my second question was about like the controllers, how they also like manage that, because I saw that like Mango's controller has a braided cable, even though they're playing with the same GameCube controller. Like the players are free to choose the controller that they can like, but they have like they have like bans to specific manufacturers. Like is there something about controllers?
I don't think specific manufacturers. There's just I think they more ban certain things that your controller can do. So I don't think they allow macros, for instance, on your controller.
Okay.
There's another player in the top 8 whose name is Hacks, who had a lot of hand issues because the way you have to hold like a regular controller for long periods of time he developed arthritis, and so he switched to using what Hitbox or Smashbox or something like that. It's basically an arcade stick for Smash, and he has lots of videos on YouTube because he sells it as well. He's like their sponsor or whatever. But like they actually like had to mod it because like for instance the GameCube controller, when you like press right, it only goes up to like 98% right on the analog stick. But you could, in theory, if you're making your own controller, you could actually make it go to 100% right, or 100% down, right? Which it actually changes the way the game functions to some degree. But obviously, that is a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
So like I think most organizing bodies will have some rules regarding like you can't use the turbo button, or you can't like macro is an easy one because wave dashing is actually very difficult. You have to do a jump and then a dash, or then a diagonal dash in a direction, like all within the span of like a quarter of a second or even less, right? And so wave dash is really difficult. So if you could just have a macro where like every time I press X, I do a wave dash, right, in a direction, obviously that would be really useful, but that's like banned in competitive play.
Sure.
But otherwise, in terms of controllers, most players are just using a regular GameCube controller, and then in terms of modifications, a lot of these players will have really long cables with them, like that they'll put on. They're like different manufacturers, and like a lot of the top players will spend like $300 to get like what we might consider a modded controller, but basically what that means is a regular Nintendo controller that has been like repainted or given a longer cord or something, but nothing that gains a competitive advantage.
I see. Okay.
So let's finish up this. Mango's up 2 stocks to 1, and we can see like they're using that shine move a lot, and this map has stage transformation. So here we'll see the stage transform into a different stage. While Mango gets a combo right as as it happens. We've got there you've got that was like kind of he read the right option. So we'll go ahead and we'll go on to the second winner's semifinals, which is between Zane and Hungrybox. Now, one thing to note about this.
This match was amazing.
One thing to note about this matchup is just that. So Melee has what are called like the 5 gods, which just means like the 5 best players from this one particular era, but still holds true to today. And in fact, non-god players, there's only like 3 or 4 that have won a
like
tournament.
Human players.
Yeah, the human players. There's only like 3 or 4 that have won a major tournament since like 2013.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like, and so that can be very good for the life of a competitive esport, especially when with the tournaments, because if you know the big names, right? If you know that there's the 5 gods, and you can expect, the top 8, it's got Mewtwo King and Hungrybox, and Zane is not one of the gods, by the way. It's got Mango and Leffen. Leffen's not. Leffen's actually known as the God Slayer. He was the first person outside of the gods to win a major tournament when the era of the gods began. But like, Mango's one of the gods, right? So it's like you can say like I know Mango because he's one of the gods, right? Like it's a way of it's like having actually not the same winner every time can hurt a competitive scene because it's like, oh no, like there's no contingency. Like the audience doesn't feel a sense of excitement. There's only the only question like going to the tournament is, will the best player lose, right? And you don't want that to be the only question, because then no one wants to watch any other sets because they don't feel like they matter. Because all that matters is what has happened to the best player. In this case, Hungrybox is the best player in the world, at least per rankings. You know, maybe you disagree personally, but he's rated the best player in the world. Zane is one of the not gods. He's actually one of the players who picked up the game after the documentary. So that means he picked up the game like over a decade after it was released.
Interesting.
And he doesn't have a sponsorship, right?
He was sponsored by Mogul Moves, which is a Twitch streamer, like who has a clothing brand. This was like, I'll set you up. There's actually I watched the YouTube video where the streamer who sponsored Zane, who owns this clothing line called Mogul Moves, talks about the experience of sponsoring a player, and it was pretty interesting. Okay. But we went and watched some gameplay. So here we've got a pretty interesting matchup. It's between Puff and Marth. Now, Puff is a player you might not think of as being very strong. They're a little slow, though they're so fast for regular game's sake. They're just in Melee, they're a relatively slow character, and they have very few very strong strengths. They're one of the lightest characters in the game, but they have a lot of really strong moves. So the strongest move that Jigglypuff has is this move called Rest, and what Rest is Rest is this move where Jigglypuff goes to sleep, and you might think, well, that sounds really fucking bad. But if the opponent is like inside of you when you rest, you'll basically instantly kill them.
Oh, you're right.
And so yes, you'll be asleep, but they're dead. So it's a pretty good trade-off. And so the thing is there's Jigglypuffs will have different setups for how to get rest. Mm-hmm. And so what that means is fighting Jigglypuff can be a very infuriating experience for a lot of players. The reason being is you have to play very slow and methodical against Jigglypuff, because you can't let her get any of her setups. A grab could lead to a death. A up air could lead to death. You know, there's just these certain moves that you can't let hit you. So you have to kind of space yourself constantly, trying to make sure that if you get hit by something, it's not something that will lead to arrest.
Gotcha.
So here, and the nice thing is that Marth is actually bad against Jigglypuff, generally speaking. But Marth has ace, what I mean by that is at the top level, Hungrybox is very good against Marths. The only top tier character that has a good matchup against Jigglypuff is Fox. And in fact, there's a lot of players, because Hungrybox is so good, that they don't play Fox, but they picked up Fox just to play against Hungrybox with Jigglypuff, because it's so hard for the other characters. Now, Zane only plays Marth. And so Zane is not necessarily in a hard place, but Zane, he's playing a matchup that's kind of difficult. Here we see Zane kind of camping the ledge. What he wants is, he's basically taking it and he's trying to use it as his own personal advantage state. Because basically the thing about Smash is you see the timer in the top. If that timer reaches 0, whoever has the percentage and stock lead wins. So if you have a lead, you can kind of camp out the opponent. You can say, you have to come to me, because otherwise I will wait until the timer runs out. And so that's what Zane was kind of doing there. Zane's trying to slow down the game. The nice thing is, because Jigglypuff is so light, you don't have to win that many interactions in order to kill her, right? As opposed to a heavier character where you have to win, let's say, 10 interactions to kill them. Against Jigglypuff, maybe you have to only win 5 or something like that. But it can be hard to get in, especially because Hungrybox is so good. So there, we got another kill. So we see, Zane is trying to space and only hit with the very tip of his sword, right? Because Jigglypuff obviously has very short, little stubby arms and legs, and so isn't particularly fast. And there we go. Zane takes game 1. He got the same combo a couple times with his down throw into smash attack.
I like his glasses.
Yeah. And so we'll skip ahead a little bit.
Angry box game.
And so the general idea we have, we kind of understand is Martha's going to try to space out the Jigglypuff, while the Jigglypuff is going to be not necessarily trying to go in. They're both trying to space each other out, but at different spaces, and that's what makes it interesting. So in terms of counter picks, the interesting about Melee is you just can't win on the same stage twice. So otherwise, after the first stage, all stages are legal. So Hungrybox picked the biggest stage, Dreamland, because Jigglypuff actually has good recovery. She just is really light. So as long as she lives, that's an awesome combo. And so Jigglypuff has great recovery because she has so many jumps. Right, she's literally a balloon. So the biggest level really gives her an advantage because she might get knocked really far, but as long as she's still living, she can get back to the stage. And so she just doesn't want to get knocked off the blast zone. That's why she doesn't mind the space as much, because as you can tell, Hungrybox will sit in the middle of the stage, right, and kind of try to he'll try to space out the opponent by just throwing out that one move, back air, over and over. And that's because back air is a pretty quick move, and she sends her leg out very far, like he just hit with a back air. And so what you can do is you can kind of just keep throwing out a back air and dare your opponent to kind of go into you, right? Because if your opponent's too close, and that's both of these characters are kind of spacers in that sense. And so we see it's a lot slower of a game than we saw with Falco Fox, because those characters are both fast and want to get in. That's how they do their damage. So there, Zane gets a combo of a jab. I think it was jab into up tilt. And the thing about Marth is Marth also has tippers. So what that means is if he hits anyone with the very tip of the sword, it will send them flying much further and do more damage.
Oh, just a quick thing, you can see by Hungry's Box shirt that he's sponsored by Monster. That is another energy drink.
Yeah,
so
it is true. It's sponsored by TSM, who has our Team Liquid, who has a relationship probably with Monster, right?
Yeah, okay.
Get that on the just to note a slight difference there in terms. It's like a second degree of sponsorship.
I was thinking about the sponsorship thing because on Zane's UI there, they don't have any logo, because Hungry Box had Team Liquid, the Fangy there.
Yeah.
And Zane is
Well, and Leffen had the what was it?
He was TSM.
TSM. Yeah, he had the TSM
and
logo.
Mango Cloud9.
Yep. It's interesting too, because that's another element of competitive play, and in terms of the finances of it, how profit works, the ways that teams are built, and the way that they kind of straddle different games and genres and stuff. Yeah. I think that'd be something worth talking about at some point.
Yeah, the business of esports. This is something very important to talk about. I feel that this is something that we talk so little about, and it's so because people think that esports is about the game.
Yeah,
it is though, but also
I don't want to. Okay, so I'm gonna interject slightly. As I have lots of students who are interested in esports, and they tend to last semester I had 4 students do projects that were esports related. And for their final project in our English 102 class, and all of them were concerned with the business side. So I don't know, yes, people are concerned with the game, they love the game, right? And the game is the reason why people are watching, right? People don't watch because they like Team Liquid, generally speaking, right? But I don't know if it's fair to say that no one is talking about the business side of things.
No, but I'm not saying generally. I'm saying that I mean yes, generally in a way, but at the same time I feel that especially for example scholars and the press, it has been more news outlets and reporters in my perspective, as someone that's following research on the field, I feel that those people are being more efficient on talking and discussing critically the business of esports than we as scholars do, So I feel that and this is something that is very crucial to the way that actually the gaming industry has been performing over the couple, I don't know, the last 10 years or 5 years or so. So I feel that this is something that we are game scholars. I mean, obviously everyone can no one is it's not a mandatory thing, but also I feel that it's something that we have to assess critically. It's important.
I totally agree. And then at least for me in esports scholarship, that's one of my primary concerns. I am often most interested in the way that leagues, teams, and tournaments are financially organized, because I find it interesting. I like to follow the money when it comes to something like this, right? And there are so many different parties involved. Thinking of companies that are sponsoring, individuals playing the game, individuals representing teams, and all of those teams in their respective networks. There's a lot of power in these mechanics. And a lot of times the power isn't really explored or analyzed in a way that kind of tells us more about the structures at play.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's so much money in this, and there's been money in it for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think that the way that these teams, tournaments, and leagues are structured ultimately tell us more about the way that gaming and competitive gaming can be monetized in familiar ways, right? Because these work very much like traditional sports leagues work. They're modeled after the same thing, and that's when I was talking about this in my paper for Richard. That's why, in part, they're so popular. They're easy to access. We understand by looking at this screen that these two people are competing.
Yeah.
Because this is a setup that we've seen before.
Yeah.
Got a replay. So, Zane managed to beat Hungrybox on Dreamland, which is a pretty big feat. What's up, gamer? Hi, no name 869420. Those are some numbers after your name.
Those are good numbers.
If you have any questions, let us know, and we'll try to answer them. Yeah, I think the monetary thing is definitely something that's worth discussing and worth kind of being interested in. It's not my particular area of interest when it comes to esports, but I definitely think it's worth, especially because like in the world of esports, discussion like this, like metagaming, like like it's like we got like it's like almost people more interested in their like niche. Like, and I don't want to call them niche because I think metagaming is really important and cool. It's more like people who are interested in their particular way of reading it more than it is like kind of trying to necessarily understand the games themselves or how the games come to be organized in this way, which is part of why we're doing this month based on the way that competition is organized. And I think if we want to talk monetarily, I think the way that a tournament functions from a monetary standpoint is a lot different than a way a league does.
Absolutely.
Because in a league, it's like it's almost the opposite of pay to play in a sense. Mm-hmm. It's like pay to get money. Like if you're buying a team in a league, right? You're buying it because it'll eventually make you money, right? Yeah. In a tournament, it's pay to play. Like everyone who's in this tournament paid an entrance fee, right? I don't know if it was like $5 or $10, right? It maybe wasn't very much, but across the 2,000 people, that helps create the prize pot and creates this being a profitable event, as well as ad breaks. We've got so like there's a way that the players are profitable, right? Is then by making money, being sponsored, doing streams, right? But there's a way that the organizers of the event, right, who are obviously sponsored by Juked and Controller Chaos, right? I have no clue, but obviously you wouldn't have ever even heard of them unless they weren't sponsored on the stream of this thing that you're watching. Yeah. And so, this got like 100,000 viewers, so you're able, you got Gaming Generations, or ASUS, Republic of Gamers, which is like their gaming line for ASUS. So like, right, so you've got like, that's kind of how a tournament often will make their money, is through the entrance fees, and then through like kind of those advertising. That can be more difficult. Nintendo hitboxes. That's what I was talking about with hacks. That's like the controller that he uses. Hitbox. But if we're, and then so the thing is, your jumps don't refresh until you get on the thing. But Jigglypuff's punch move that she was doing in the air, she can that's almost acts as another jump, even though it doesn't count as a jump. It like moves you vertically without moving you too low.
Gotcha.
Or it moves you horizontally without moving you too low vertically. So
it's a good moment when all three of us just stop talking and just get really tense.
So when a character is dashing back and forth left to right, kind of what you were just seeing there was Zane doing, like there again. Mm-hmm. What they're doing is it's better to do that than standing still to some degree, right? Because if you're standing still, your opponent, you have less. It's like the difference between advantage and disadvantage, right? And advantage, you have more options, and if you're moving left and right, your opponent has less of an idea of whatever your next move might be, because you could dash back or you could keep dashing forward, right? Whereas if you're only standing still, you actually have less options. That's why you'll see a lot of times players will dash left and right just suddenly, like really rapidly. It's because it's just to try to mix up so their opponent has less of an idea of what they're about to do.
I see.
All right, so now we're on another last stock situation. This time, if Zane wins, Zane's done. That's a 3-0. But we'll see if Hungrybox can pull out a win here. So then we've got HBox has not gotten very many rests. He got one, I think, in the last game, and so that's a combo there. The combos are a little less freeform with both of these characters. They have more standard combos to some degree. Not saying that there's no creativity, and there, unfortunately,
Ooh.
he was not able to get it. So I'll skip ahead a little bit.
Just like another commentary about the financial sides of things, like there were a controversy like recently about Evil Japan, because like
I think if it's what I think you're going to be talking about, I don't know. Go ahead.
about the controller as the prize for the Smash tournament.
It was a free to enter tournament.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anyways, okay,
So
that's all.
The prize was what?
Yeah, like
I thought you were going to talk about how the original amount of entrants was 3,000, and then the total for the actual tournament was like 1,700.
Ooh.
1,300, but that happens with every free tournament. Is a bunch
Sure.
of people drop out. But anyways, go ahead.
yeah, it's like they announced like the prize pool for all games, like Street Fighter and whatever, like the whole like games played, and like the prize for like this Smash like tournament was like a special version of the Switch controller. That was the prize.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, and the other games had like actual like prize money, like.
Was it free to enter for all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just had to get your way there.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh wait.
Was this like some kind of legendary like?
It's 2020. It's this year.
You're right.
Ah, okay.
You're right.
You're living in the past.
Browse events. That's what I want. Okay, well I can't. Evo Japan 2019. Well,
No, it's 2020.
2020 isn't on the website.
Oh.
That's it. Otherwise, I would go
You
there.
can search like news because like a lot of people reported it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to see the. I wanted to see the earnings and esports earnings. I didn't want to like.
Okay.
I didn't want to spend the whole time
Oh, sorry.
trying to find the
Sorry,
article
boss.
on the
That's-
thing.
But,
But,
That's interesting,
but
though.
I know that like the controller was dropped when the player who won like got it,
no.
which is funny. But I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's. I actually don't think it's very fair to compare. In part because it was a free tournament to enter, so it's not like you paid money to enter this tournament to win money and then you didn't get it.
Sure.
And probably more importantly, there's a difference in cultures between Japan and America. I'm not saying that like the other tournaments did have prize money and stuff, but like especially like like it's hard to just immediately compare the Evo Japan like if it's just almost exclusively Japanese players with this kind of tournament which is almost exclusively American players. So there's non-Americans in it as well, but almost exclusively American players.
I'm not blaming. I'm just like pointing to the fact that this was something that like people were talking about like a couple of weeks ago. Like just to say that like those questions are erupting. Like those questions are emerging. So people are like talking about this stuff and thinking about this stuff. Like because I mean like. If you are like some like top-notch player, like why are you gonna bother with like going to?
Yeah, why would you fly to Japan just for a tournament that has no prize? Obviously a big part of tournament and league play is like there's a financial incentive to play, right?
Yeah.
And that's what helps keep the competition having its integrity. Yes, some people will play for the love of the game, but the competition maintains its integrity when there's money in the line, which is part of the reason why, historically speaking, there's been a difference significantly between first and second place, right? There's not really a big difference between if you win the Super Bowl or your team was last place in the NFL, most people are still getting their bag, right?
Sure.
But in a tournament, because like, and this is like something we could talk about in terms of like what makes a tournament a tournament. And if we're talking about finances, it's in part that like the winner gets a lot more than anybody else because the tournament values they've missed a rest, and so if you miss a rest, you're dead.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and go to winners finals, which is between now we saw Mango win and we saw Zane win, so now it's Mango versus Zane. And so that's an important thing to note for a tournament play, right? Is that the financial incentive is to some degree like more important almost than in other like in league play.
Yeah, and that in like I mean just my personal opinion, I don't think that the players should be blamed to like not going to a tournament that don't have like
of course
a good prize money. I mean,
like, that's how you gain
it's your
prestige.
job,
Yeah.
like
You're the biggest if it's the biggest tournament like it's the biggest tournament because of the prize money to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Like You know, like prize money is like a reason. Is part of the reason. It's like it's a cyclical thing, right? The bigger the prize money, the more likely the good players are going to show up because they want to get the pot, and thus the more advertising you get because you can say we've got such and such player here who will be competing for the prize money.
Yeah.
Right. And so, for instance, last weekend this was in California. There was another tournament last weekend, so a week after this in California. That was a one-day tournament that had an important caveat to it. Now, there was like amount of money that players would win, but it was also a tournament where if you won, there's like this event called Smash Summit. And it's one of the invitational events that I was describing earlier in the stream, which is still actually kind of in a tournament format. But the winner of the tournament, or whoever was the winning player who had not already been invited to the tournament, would because some players just get an invite, right? They don't have to, so like there's different ways of getting into the tournament. You can do like there's like a voting process where like the company that puts it on, they sell like merch and stuff, and like if you buy merch, you get votes, and then you can vote for your favorite player in or something along those lines.
Gotcha.
And then, but then there's also if you like win these certain events, and the event last weekend was. Actually, it was just 2 days ago. It was this Saturday, right? Was a qualifier. So the winner of the tournament, or the highest placing player, would also just get into Smash Summit. So in that case, there's almost a premise of future incentive, right? But one thing that we saw was that all the players who had been invited to the tournament, they didn't fly out for it, right? This tournament in California, right? They flew out for this tournament in California because they had a big prize pool.
Sure.
And the winner also got invited. But, I mean, the less important. But like, if you're like the best player in the world and you've already been invited to the tournament, maybe it's not worth it to go to this tournament because it's got too low of a prize pool, or you're flying across the country or something like that. And a lot of times what tournaments you go to isn't determined by you and what you want. It's determined by what your sponsor is willing to pay for. So your sponsor might be like, these are like the 7 biggest tournaments of the year. We'll sponsor you to fly you out to each of these. But that tournament, that nothing tournament in Utah, we're not going to sponsor you to fly out and go to that, right? And then the players go, well, I'm not going to pay out of my own pocket for that then,
What's cool, too, about, like, these different prize systems where it's, like, maybe you just get a controller. Maybe the controller's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or you get money or some other kind of incentive, like the promise of future competition, something like that, right? What's cool about that is that, yes, it makes it so that all the best players, the top players in the world, funnel to these high prize tournaments. But as a result, that also means that all of the kind of lower echelon tournaments are just open play for anybody trying to get here. So it kind of paves a path, not to success, because that's way too variable, but a path to get the experience necessary and the exposure necessary to get here. As a result of these people being like, I'm like way past that point in my career where I'm gonna fly out to middle of nowhere, Utah, to go to some random tournament. Instead, I'm gonna have my sponsor fly me to G7.
You guys are blaming Utah. I was in Utah like yesterday.
I forgot that you were in Salt Lake over the weekend for a conference. Anyways,
I was like, oh my god! Like,
so
How could you fly out to Utah?
I did.
Not
for a Smash.
And that's one of the things that we can definitely note is the tournament to some degree is the common man's. I use man in the bad way there.
I know what you mean.
The common person's like organization format, right? Because like think about it's like, have you guys seen the movie Greatest Game Ever Played with Shia LaBeouf?
No, I don't think so.
So it's this movie about Shia LaBeouf. It's about this famous golfer who is a lifelong amateur, but at the time of the movie, it's like 1915 or 1907 or something like that, early turn of the century, and Shia LaBeouf. And it's based on true story. It's just to let me get that away. I'm just keep saying Shia LaBeouf. That's not the name of the actual person. But Shia LaBeouf plays this golfer who enters into the U.S. Open because it happens to be played that year on the course he's a caddy. And so he's normally a caddy on this course, but he knows the course very well. He's a very good golfer. And what ends up happening is that Shia LaBeouf ends up winning. And like this nobody amateur wins the U.S. Open because it's an open tournament. Anyone can play in it, right? And to some degree, these kinds of tournaments also offer that opportunity as like, I'm a nobody, but I can possibly, if I'm better than all the other 2,000 people just this weekend, I can win the tournament and become like famous and stuff. Whereas in league play, right, like the NFL, let's just take that as an example. You've already had to have been a great football player for many years until you are allowed to be in the NFL. Or in soccer, you have to be a great soccer player for a long time. You can't just go play for Tottenham Hotspurs, right? Or for Manchester United, right? They're going to sign whoever already the best players are.
Yeah.
And so this acts like kind of an open thing. And as well, you know, you can't really have, like, you know, you have bowling leagues, so I'm not going to say this doesn't exist for common people or the amateurs or lay people. But like, for instance, this weekend there was a Smash tournament in Milwaukee called The Construct, right? It has a melee. It happens like once or twice a month or something like that. It happens on Sundays. And it's just for Milwaukee Smashers, right? There's an entrance fee, so like the winner does make a little bit of money, right? It's nothing that you could ever live off of or anything like that. But it still is like you get the experience of playing in a tournament, and because a tournament is something like we could organize right now between the three of us. We could just say we're gonna have a tournament, us three. If there's four, that would be a lot better. Kelly, right? Because like we could be like, okay, I'm gonna play Daniel, you're gonna play Kelly. Winner of those games will play each other, right? We'll have a losers bracket, right? So there'll be grand finals, right?
Yeah.
We could do all that just by ourselves, right? Organizing a league might prove to be a little bit more difficult.
Sure.
And so, to some degree, a tournament allows for, and that's part of the reason why fighting game tournaments survive, right? Or like, it's because there's so many fans who are passionate who know that they are going to go 0-2, right? They're going to lose both their games.
Oh, yeah.
But they're coming because they also want to watch, right? Because like you get a competitor pass, right, or something. You also get to come and watch all your favorite players play. You get the experience of, like, very often, like you'll see in the advertising for these events, it's not just, oh, come watch Mango and Zane play, because that's only going to happen for an hour on Sunday night.
Exactly.
But the advertising will be like, we have a 24-hour venue and lots of setups. So it's like, this is your hobby playing Smash. Come hang out for a weekend playing Smash. Yes, there's a tournament involved, right? But also, don't worry about the tournament so much.
Yeah.
Come enjoy, buy our food, right? There's all this other stuff to try to make it into a big event.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like the economics of it all. Like, if you have like this, okay, obviously there's not just like the top like god players, but at the same time I feel that like this system, how it is structured, like kind of facilitates like a huge gap between like the top players and like the common folk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because for example,
but does it do it so? I'm just asking, any more so than a league does? We can say it does, but I'm saying, can you think of a competitive format that doesn't do that?
No, I'm not saying that's a tournament problem.
Go ahead
I'm
and
saying
continue.
it's like a competitive gaming
It's
problem
the professional.
in general.
Yeah, it's once it's professional, and I don't know.
And that happens in
not so
like traditional sports as well. Like, for example,
Yes.
football, like actual football, not American football. That's what I know. I don't. Yeah, but anyways, like, I mean, for example, if you get like one of the top players in the world, like Neymar, for example, like he's not a kid that came out of nowhere. You know, that was discovered. Like, he was like bred in order to be like the top player in the world.
Sure.
Like he had access to like all the facility. Like, since he was a kid and like his family like noticed it, like his talent.
Yeah.
Like, they invested like a lot of money, you know, because like they had this privilege in order to like build like this top performing player. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel that like in sports we love like a good like comeback story, or like that guy that was like no one like came out of nowhere like and had like managed to find success even so. But I feel that at the same time like there is a very like privileged structural system that in some ways is beneficial for those who have like the conditions to like, I'm gonna become a streamer, and then you build your like streaming whatever, and then you can afford like spending 8 to 12 hours a day streaming in order to build your community or to build your brand, you know what I mean? Like, or you can like, or you have like conditions to like fly to Utah to go to whatever tournament, you know what I mean? So I feel that like in the way that those things are structured, like facilitates this idea that like you have streamers like, I don't know, like those top players, or what's the name of Dr. Disrespect or Ninja or whatever, or Shroud, you know, like they're like the big deal, and everyone that's trying to build a career out of competitive gaming is kind of looking up to those guys, you know, like, but what were like, we don't know the actual path or the actual like system of disadvantage. You know what I mean? That's I feel that in part due to the fact that we look at those phenomena as like, oh, this is a game, this is something that I'm passionate about, and I'm doing this like in a disinterested way, you know what I mean? Like this, I'm not doing this primarily to seek monetary value. But at the same time, if you open Twitch, in order for Dr. Disrespect to like have a live stream with like thousands of people, there are thousands and thousands of like streamers with like 10 viewers or zero viewers. You know, like last week I started like entering random live streams after Leia told me that she does that as well, like with 10 people watching or 5 or 0 that were like from people from Brazil, and I was like, okay man, you can do it, that's awesome, like go for it, like trying to, because I mean how depressing it is, like you're trying to make something out of it, and like I wonder how hard, I mean I can only imagine how punishing the system can be, you know, like if you don't get to be in the top, you see?
Absolutely. And the thing that in part makes it so that people like Ninja and Shroud and Dr. Disrespect, there are many systems at play that let them succeed. For the most part, in Ninja's case anyway, he's been gaming and professionally gaming for years, since early Halo. So he already had a very long-standing exposure and experience in tournament-style play.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of how he had already acquired fame. And then comes in this platform that didn't even have a genre around it yet. Live streaming wasn't like a thing, really, until Twitch came out and said, now we're going to do game live streaming, and you can make money from this platform. Until that point, there wasn't really how that worked. There were live streams, and there were live cams, and there were many things that were not games. So the kind of like professionalization of this as an actual job has only come up in the last 15 years, and that's probably being liberal. So were it not for the fact that someone like Ninja already had exposure within like this kind of play, it stands to reason that he would not have acquired the success that he did now. But the reason that people look to him and say, oh, I can make money like Ninja does, which like I don't know if anybody can, but theoretically.
Looking at, I think it's kind of like, it's the same thing with regular sports. It's like looking at like Tom Brady and being like, well, if I just play quarterback well enough, I'll make as much money as him and be married to Giselle, like the most famous, supermodel in the world, who's also worth like more than I am, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Like to some degree, like, and that's the thing is like, and that's probably one of the biggest things, like one of my biggest takeaways from the tournament, like understanding tournaments from today. It's like the tournament really, like, yes, there's all these other things that can come out of like winning tournaments and the exposure of like, right, because like 100,000 people aren't going to tune in to watch Zayn play just by himself.
Sure.
But now 100,000 people have seen Zayn play at the highest stage, right? And so like that's like a level of exposure that like you're not going to get anywhere else, right? Or that's really difficult to get in other places that could help build your brand. Which is why, right, that, Monster or Red Bull sponsors, right, Mango or whatever, right, or Cloud9 sponsors them. It's because, like, getting, like, they're like, yeah, we'll sponsor this great player because we know that when they do well, it will lead to eyes on our brand, right?
Someone said something in chat.
Smash 2 only, it says 20XX. Smash 2, yes, Smash. I guess that's another way of saying Smash Melee. Nice to see you. But yeah, so, but the tournament format itself, kind of like, even though sometimes it can be really exclusionary, right, in a lot of ways, but there's also, like that was like a crazy interaction. The tournament format does allow for, like, even if you have to fight Mango right away in pools, you got to play against Mango, right? Like, when are you ever going to play football against Messi, right? Or
I'd rather have a drink with him, actually.
Yeah, and so like there's something liberating about the way that the tournament format kind of more privileges like an enjoyment of the game and like the okayness, we'd maybe call it, with being a not great player, right, and still getting able to compete and still getting able to be like, this is my hobby, it's something I care about, which I think goes to show to some degree that video games, and you know, Zane is really happy. So we'll skip to to grand finals, because that was winners finals, because we only have 20 minutes, and don't worry, this video is 40 minutes long, but the set only goes to like around here. So that's about 25, so
cool.
We'll be okay. I want to show the very end, because I think something happens that I think shows something about esports are just sports in general, competition, and like that's real. But anyways, I want to save that for when it actually happens.
Just like following up on the thing about like tournaments, if I'm not mistaken, the guy that won Street Fighter, like the last Capcom Tour.
He's
Street Fighter,
unsponsored.
he's unsponsored, like, and he's from New York, I guess, or something, and the tournament was elsewhere. I don't remember why, but I followed the story, and like it wasn't like an easy decision to fly to that tournament, because he's like someone that comes from like
poor family.
Yeah, he's in a like fragile like socioeconomical condition, so it's not like that he could like just fly to whatever from New York to the east to the west coast like to play, you know, and then he doesn't have a sponsorship, but somehow he managed like to gather like funds and go to the tournament, and he won the tournament. So I'm not saying
and it's
that
a lot of money, because that's like $50,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that like it's very like it's just based on privilege, but I'm saying that like those kinds of like the underdog story, someone that like is able
that's
to
an exception.
Yeah,
right?
that's not the rule. Yeah.
Hence the 5 gods winning every tournament for almost 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, so that's like a missed rest there. It doesn't get a great punish, but but anyways, no, and I agree. I think like you can in theory parlay great competitive success to like some sort of successful streaming career or something like that.
Yeah.
But those are definitely mutually exclusive, or like they're not mutually exclusive, but they have a lot of exclusivities between them. The thing that makes somebody a great competitor might not necessarily make them a great streamer, right? Like Zane here, he doesn't stream very much. Like he's not a well-known streamer. He doesn't have a lot of streaming. A big following. Hungrybox has a bigger following, and Mango has a way bigger following, right? Zane, generally speaking, that's not his personality as much. He's not like Mango. On the other hand, is like this guy who's like known for like drinking and partying. Like that's like kind of his persona.
Yeah.
Makes for a better, more entertaining stream when he's like oftentimes like it's like 40 Wednesday or something like that, right? Like the people want to see somebody engage in these kind of self-destructive acts almost to some
extent. Sorry, right? I didn't follow like what he does on stream.
I mean, it's actually Axe. I think Wednesday is Smash with Axe, but sometimes they'll like have like 40 Friday. Like 40 is a kind of drink.
Oh, okay.
And so like that's like entertaining to some degree, right? Like, I'm not saying that I don't actually know if this is exactly the case. I know that is his persona, and I've seen him drink on air. So like I'm saying like this is not outside the realm of possibility for Mango, right? And so, like, cultivating what it means to be, like, an engaging and interesting streamer that people want to watch, like, it can be a lot different than being, like, whatever the skills were that brought you the ability to, you know, win a tournament or get second place in a tournament.
Dr. Disrespect, for instance.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, he's a good...
He's just
PUBG.
Entertaining. Right?
Yeah,
He's good at games.
Apparently, he's a good PUBG player. Like, I don't know how good, like, but, like...
He's good enough to win relatively consistently.
He's not bad. Like,
but at the point where he is, all that matters is that he's mostly successful, because people like to watch people win.
Yeah, it's
right. People don't like watching somebody lose over and over, typically speaking. And so, but the thing, so for Dr. Disrespect, right, it's that, you know, he's competent enough while also being very, very entertaining.
Yeah, it's the character. Like, I mean, I can only imagine what playing that character like 8 hours. I don't know how long every day like he streams.
Yeah.
It can do to someo's mind, you know, like, because I read interviews with him, and he said like he had no problem whatsoever getting out of character.
Yeah.
But can you imagine?
No, that's crazy, and especially because like him in particular, because he's such an icon, has had really horrible things happen to him, right? Like the thing, I don't know if you guys heard, like his house got shot.
Yeah.
And like a bullet went into like his kid's window.
Really?
Yeah. Like some crazy shit.
But not an episode about Dr. Disrespect.
It is
so
not.
I'm gonna kind of slow that down a little bit because I just think we're getting pretty far away. Like he's not even a competitive player. He's never played in a tournament, so we're like pretty far away from our theme for our focus for the day.
But going back to Smash and tournament players,
yes,
like I was actually surprised that Mewtwo King has a following as a streamer, because like the guy is like the opposite of entertaining from my perspective. Like he's basically like a robot. Like
I mean
that was programmed to play Smash very well. You know?
I think that's very unfair, and
really?
I would say that's kind of stereotyping, especially because he's on the spectrum. And I'm not blaming you because English isn't your first language, but describing someone on the spectrum as a robot is like kind of offensive.
Okay, sure. Okay, my bad. But like,
no, it's okay.
My thing is like he's a very good player, and like I watched his streams like a couple of times, but like it's almost like my feeling is that it feels like it doesn't feel that like he's enjoying like what he's doing. You know, this is a super personal opinion. I don't know if he's true or not, but
he probably is enjoying it. But the way that he like expresses those
the expression
kinds
of that enjoyment.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be different. I'll say like the different streamers might have different vibes. Like there's like a streamer named Plup who is like one of the other great Melee players. I watch his stream, not super often, but often enough. And this Plup's stream is known because Plup is kind of like a memer. Right, like he's like very, very relaxed the entire time he's playing, and then he like makes memes and jokes, like so, you know what I mean? Like as opposed to Hungrybox, who gets pretty excited when he's playing, or Mango, who's like obviously like kind of like this almost like frat boy kind of persona. Sure. I think that there's some people who probably like the quirky Mewtwo King because Mewtwo King is very quirky. I think
that's for sure.
It'd be fair to say about like his like kind of on-screen persona, and so like different people have different things that they enjoy, though there is a difference between Mewtwo King getting like 500 viewers right on an average streamer and Mango getting like thousands, right?
Of
and
course.
so that shows that certain kinds of personalities and things can translate better to this kind of space. But yeah, I think one of the things that like I've often heard commentators I've heard often commentators kind of talk about in terms of the open tournament format. All right, but there's a difference as well between open and closed tournament. Right, a closed tournament might have like be an invite only, or the streamed the tournament doesn't take place over just one weekend. So like StarCraft 2, for instance, the biggest tournament of the year, or not the biggest tournament of the year. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The biggest tournament in Korea is this series called the GSL. And the way that the GSL is formatted is like there's like qualifiers for the GSL, and a certain number of players who did well last season just automatically qualify. Okay. But then there's like kind of an open qualifier, but those games aren't streamed. And then once you get to the top 32 players, they play in like groups, and then it slowly becomes a tournament. So it's kind of like it's a league in a sense because it's almost always the same players, but it's formatted still in that tournament. So I call that like a closed tournament in a sense because it's also happening over the course of like a month and a half, right, as opposed to over just one weekend. Sure. Typically, an open tournament is like anyone can enter and just is in the tournament itself, right? They don't have to qualify for it in any way. But anyways, yep, there we go. So Zane. Right.
What you just described almost sounds like the Olympic model.
Yeah.
Like you do have to qualify for certain things, but other things are just open.
Technically, right, we could have, if we really wanted to, we could describe everything in the world as open. But I think that there's definitely really varying degrees. Like the NFL is like definitely not as open. Like, Tom Brady could very easily enter this tournament, but Tom Brady's going to have Zane's going to have a hard time getting into playing in an NFL game. Even though in theory any NFL team could assign Zane, right?
Sure.
Like, oh, look, they have the logo next to Zane now. It says Logo Moves.
Yeah.
That was the sponsor for the tournament. So,
it's clear that like
the sponsor might have like been like, hey, here's the image file, like get a thing on the stream.
They didn't treat the image file very well because like the other brands like it seems that like the brand is prepared to appear in that small space. Like they guy just like get this PNG there. Whatever. Like
it doesn't help that some of the letters are in red.
Yeah.
But
I know like if it was designed to be that way, it would have like a white version or like a miniature version and whatever. And that's the designer in me like being an asshole.
No, but I mean it's not you being an asshole though. I think it's really important even though it is really small. It is a critical part of tournaments where, I mean, it's how they make money. It's why we can have tournaments, right?
I mean, yeah, it's because, well, yeah, so the way that tournaments work, right, if we really want to boil it down, is there's two major financial contributors. One is the players themselves paying to play in the tournament, right? And so, in a sense, that makes some tournaments less open than others, right? Like, there's some tournaments where you have to pay like $35 to play in the tournament, right?
Sure.
You know, that can be a lot of money for some people. That might prohibit them from playing.
You have to go there as well. Like you have to be
Travel
there.
expenses,
The second reason, of course, is that people want to watch this, right? There are 100,000 people who watch this live, and like, how many views does this YouTube video have? 100,000 by itself, and this is only a week or two after, right? It's gonna there's a legacy, there's legs to it in theory, right? If this eventually, gets a certain amount of, every view, is a certain amount of money in like a theoretical sense.
Yeah.
And so like, but the fact that people want to watch this, and the fact that they want to watch it live, which is also important for a lot of advertising reasons. Helps make this a reality for something that can be financially viable for these people, rather than just being like, this is the tournament for the best kinetic players. And then there's a cyclical thing, because the more financially viable it becomes, the more likely you're to see the same players at the big events. And then people will get used to those players, become fans of those players, want to watch more, right? And it can kind of snowball a little bit from there. It's kind of interesting to think about, how does an esport die then, if we're thinking about it as like a snowball effect? It in part, there's a lot of different reasons. One might, like, I think we place way too much of an emphasis as spectators and commentators on like meta balance and things of that nature. Like, I think that those do matter, but most of the time people don't quit games because they don't, and that will end this game. But people don't quit games because they don't feel like they're balanced. They quit games because they have grown bored with them. Right? They quit games because they, maybe they're growing up and they got something better to do, or something else caught their fancy. Like, for instance, like, I was watching this. I know you like their content, but like the Score Esports. I was watching their video on the death of StarCraft 2 or whatever. It was something like this, kind of doom and gloom kind of, or how the biggest esport died, or something like that. Now esport, like, now just know StarCraft 2 is still alive and is in a pretty healthy place. Like, it's in its niche, right? It's not the biggest esport, but like they said one sentence on like League of Legends and Dota. Like, as like eclipsing StarCraft 2. They spent most of it talking about how there was like a really bad meta, and that killed StarCraft 2. When, like, I think what killed StarCraft 2 is that, like, the MOBA games came out, and the MOBA games were much more accessible than, you know what I mean? They're easier to play with your friends, and they're, than StarCraft is. And so, like, people gravitate, I'm not saying people only gravitate towards easy games, or else why would this game be being played at all? It's not an easy game.
Yeah.
Like, when the doc came out, people were talking about theorizing that new players would pick up the game as it out. Now, Zane is one of those players, sometimes described as a doc kid, as in somebody who picked up the game after the documentary. Because the documentary, obviously, with over 1 million views in almost every episode, is a big boon to the exposure of Super Smash Bros. Melee. But, like, the thing is that, like, when the doc came out, like, there was, like, a player, I don't remember who it was, they were, like, asked the question, like, how long do you think, like, somebody picking up the game now until they could win a tournament? And they were, like, take them, like, 3 years of consistent practice. Right? Like, this is not accessible. And, like, the sense of, like, you can just pick up the controller and beat Hungrybox. Like, right? Like, there's, like, a lot that goes into it.
But maybe, like, more accessible than StarCraft in terms of, like, spectatorship. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, if it's just
fighting games are like some of the easiest, most spectatorship sports, right? Because like it's easy to understand that the pink puff ball and the man with the sword are fighting each other. It's easy to understand the man with the sword probably outranges the puff ball. You don't need someone to explain that to you. It's easy to understand after just watching a little bit that someone falling off the edge dies or getting thrown away, like. So like the rules are much
the signals are more accessible.
Yeah, and so it's easier to, and then it's also like, and this is part 3 of my combo paper, baby, that I haven't written. Combo is spectacle, right? It's like combos, right, are like a thing that we, like, you don't have to understand all the things that go into a combo to understand, like, damn, that was nice. Like, damn, that was cool. Like, that there, like, you hit him with that back air a bunch of times. You don't need to necessarily understand all the rules of the game to, like, find that something impressive about the gameplay.
That's why, I mean, it's, like, very basic, but I feel that that's why Evil Moment 37 is so impressive.
Oh, sure.
Even though for someone that's not like a player, like a Street Fighter player.
But you know, there's different levels to how impressive that is. Because if you're just someone that watches it, then Eric's point about combo as spectacle is true. It is impressive because it is visually impressive.
Yes.
I
yes.
am excited
in a more
by
visual,
looking
like
at it.
effective way, you know.
Yeah. But if you know the intrinsic mechanics of what was necessary to make that happen, you have a totally different understanding of it. That's where like your actual contextual and content knowledge about what's happening and the kind of like physical experience of playing the game, that's where those kind of inform what your affective response is.
Yeah.
What is it that's impressing you? Is it just that it's pretty and it's cool to look at because it's going boom, boom, boom? Or are you like, no, I can't pull that off.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like going back to this idea of like what kills a game or esports and whatever, and I feel that at some point it's also like we have to put in mind like the role of the developers as well. Like for example, Nintendo is not very supportive of
their sponsorship
Smash
is on this, but not because Melee's here. It's because the new Smash game that is now the best-selling fighting game of all time is, you know, also at this tournament, right?
For instance, like I mean, Heroes of the Storm was never like a big thing at all, but it had something. It had like I mean like leagues and whatever, and like at some point Blizzard decided to do a massive like step down in terms of like support to the to the competitive scene. And I mean, can you imagine like if you are like a business person like deciding which thing you're gonna invest like now, like it's not a good investment to seek out for a game that like the developer is not like super into supporting, and that doesn't have like a very like huge spectatorship or scene to begin with. You know
I mean, that's why Overwatch League and the new Call of Duty League have drawn so much money. Like, it's just insane.
Well, I mean,
how much money.
I think that they're getting a lot of money on like the hope, the prospect of
venture capitalism.
It's venture capitalism. It's like
absolutely.
What if you were? It's like somebody came up to you, hey, we can travel back in time and get you on the ground floor of the NBA. Right? It's like every NBA franchise is worth like a fucking $1 billion, right?
Exactly.
Like every NFL franchise is worth like $4 or $5 billion probably. Like just so it's like if I could tell you for $20 million you could get on the ground floor of something that will be as big as that, of course, like that's an enticing offer.
Yeah. That's why Robert Kraft paid for the Owl team.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I have seen this model work. Therefore, with this thing that already makes a ton of money, this model should work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's watch. This is Game 5 of the Grand Finals. Let's watch Zane versus Hungrybox. I'll try to do my best kind of commentating it a little bit. Okay, and we'll play it out of our stream. It's 4 now, but we won't go too far over because the game is only usually like 3 minutes. So here that like, you know, we see Zane trying to space him out. And so like, you know, he's using that big sword, right? He's trying to like just throw it out. You see him throw it out very often because the goal is to kind of just, you know, it's not to necessarily to hit, it's to say, like, no fly zone, right? You can't come here. And then actually it's funny because Hungrybox is doing the same thing by throwing out those back airs. So we've got this very, you know, tense standoff here between the two of them. And we've got, all right, so there he gets the edge guard, bam, dead. So like an edge guard, of course, like, you know, beating somebody up when they're off the ledge. So now Zane is in an early hole, not too big, not insurmountable. Hungrybox has taken a dip in percent, so in theory, a stray hit like that might do it, but didn't quite do it here. It's worth noting that this is Zane's counter pick, so that means like this is the stage that Zane would like to play Game 5 on. Oftentimes that's why Game 1 can be so important, is because whoever wins Game 1, if you start trading games, they get the final you get the final pick because you won Game 1.
Gotcha.
And so now the stage is about to transform. Here we see again they're just trying to space each other out. Oh, you can tell that Hungrybox wanted the rest because that was a rest setup, but the DI from Zane was too good. All right, the combo's going off, and you can see like this is one thing I'll just note. We haven't talked about it very much, but Jigglypuff is a controversial character because most of Melee is played fast and like aggressive, and Jigglypuff is a very slow character that forces the other player to also play slow, and so some people like kind of feel like it's, to use my own term, kind of against the spirit of the game. The spirit of the game is supposed to be fast. This character goes against it. They don't like it. But alas, Nobody's seriously talking about banning the character or anything like that. Like, because they're not that strong. Okay, so we've seen that actually across this entire set and the last set. That down throw into forward smash. That is like Marth's main kill tool. So now whenever H-Box is low on health, or high on health rather, or high in percent, look out for Zane trying to get that grab. Because that's where Zane can really do some damage.
Yeah.
Here Zane's got a very fragile lead, right? He's got a very high percent. And that doesn't quite do it, but 146% is really high. Okay, and so now Zane's just trying to stock on some stuff. All right, up smash, side thing. Okay, Zane manages to recover. Now Zane is kind of just playing on the ledge a little bit, kind of taking his time, kind of trying to frustrate Hungrybox, trying to hope that Hungrybox will take like some sort of risk to try to get him while he's hanging out on the ledge there. Ultimately, though, it doesn't work, and the ledge is still disadvantaged, and he ends up taking a hit for it. Now, we got some dash dancing in the middle. Zane's kind of taking center stage, and now that we're getting another transformation. Now the transformations are random, so we end up going back to the same ones before. It's not on like a set cycle or anything. So the player has to pay attention to the logo on the back. Yeah. It's also interesting that there is a TV screen, like that's very hyper-mediated on the back end of a Pokemon Stadium. I have to imagine programming that would have been pretty interesting. Yeah. But anyways, so again, we got a lot of spacing going on. Zane's trying really hard to keep Hungrybox out, gets a good hit on the second hit of that Nair. Unable to catch Hungrybox as he's landing, but Hungrybox is still in disadvantage, right? Zane's still got the middle of the stage. Now Hungrybox manages to take the middle of the stage, but gets hit during the transformation. And the players are moving around a lot. You know, you can tell that this is a lot different than what we saw with the Fox Falco, because the players spend a lot of time being a certain distance, right? Marth wants to be where you're just at the edge of his sword, right? He doesn't want you to be any closer. Well, Jigglypuff kind of needs to be closer to get anything going on. Yeah. So there we see Hungrybox gets the punish on the on a whiffed attack on shield, and that's the thing is Marth's sword is so long. So now we'll see if he can go for. So that what happened there is you might be wondering why didn't he throw him? Yeah. He was hoping that maybe by not throwing that Hungrybox's character might like do something weird when he gets out of the grab, and then that would be an opportunity for Zane to get something. So here, this is a pretty tense moment, right? Because the thing about Smash is that like you can be any percent down, but if you're a stock up like this, right? Marth is stock up now. Anything he gets is essentially free until Jigglypuff gets the kill, and so. Being ahead in Smash can be really punishing for that reason. So even there, like that's something, right? He's got a little bit of a lead even if he were to get killed right now. So now he's playing the ledge a little bit. We got the windmill is hanging out right there. Gets the back air. Not enough to kill, but again, a disadvantaged state. We'll see. And not enough, right? Oh. And there we go. So now Marth is gonzo, and it's pretty much tied up. This gets really tense, and what we'll say is both players are going to start to play scared because
it's like match point.
Because Zane wins the tournament if he kills Jigglypuff one more time, but if he dies, the bracket is reset. He has to beat Clutchbox, known as one of the most clutch players right of all time. He has to beat Clutchbox in another best of 5 after just losing. That's not a great prospect. So now he's piling on a little bit of damage. Notice how the spacing is even more. Like they've been pretty standoffish this whole time, and now they're even further from each other, right? Because they're both worried that like, what if I make a mistake? He goes in, he gets the Nair. He's throwing out lots of those sword hit boxes. Notice how he only throws them out right above the ground, because when you hit the ground, it cancels the animation, so you then can act faster than if you threw it out when you were up really high in the air. Jigglypuff is kind of moving around, schmoovin', so to speak. Got another Nair there. The percentages are really high for both of them. Like definitely any rest, right, would instantly kill this Marth for sure. Oh, and he gets back to the stage. So like, right, this is pretty stressful. Now he gets the tipper on that, but it's not enough to kill. Maybe that wasn't the tipper. I think the tipper might have killed on a fair there. But anyways, he tried to go for a really cheeky up smash. It didn't work out. So now he's kind of stuck on the ledge. He's in super disadvantage. He manages to stay alive. We're going back to the windmill again. All right, racking up that damage. But the problem is now this is one of the big things. I just want to pause for just a second, and I know this is a really tense moment.
I'm so
but at 130%, those combos that he was using to kill Jigglypuff on a lot of those other stocks no longer work because they're going to get thrown back too far. And so now you have to get like a good stray hit or keep piling on the damage until a bad stray hit will finally kill. And there it is. Now this is the one I want to see. So Zane pops off. He's happy. And his girlfriend rushes up and like hugs. And there's like this interesting kind of gendered moment that's going to happen in just a moment. This image has been like burned into my memory. So like the girlfriend like kind of sits there and they linger on this shot for like a little bit, right? She didn't win the tournament, and that's fine. Like she's she rushes the stage and then like this like extreme joy, right? Of seeing like your partner win the game, and then Zane.
I mean like
that is ultra
just a
cute.
caveat.
I just gotta say.
I don't know like if they linger on her. Because
intentionally
or because they are not like a big media news outlet with like
that's
a huge
also what I
team.
was thinking.
No, that's fine. But like I don't know.
But it's a beautiful image.
That.
It's a beautiful image. Like anyways, like it's amazing.
Like that kind of encapsulates the excitement of the moment, right? Not just for the person playing, but for the whole community that's kind of surrounded them.
Absolutely. And it gives spectators that aren't familiar with that context still a sense of like, this is obviously very exciting. Look at how affected these people are by what just happened. So you don't need to know what's
Look
going
at like
on.
the crowd is all standing like pretty dark in there, but they're really happy, and he is just like yes, and like HBox has been like one of his rivals for a long time, right? He's lost to HBox so many times, right? So to I think he's beat him a couple times, but like to win,
but at
on
the
the
same
biggest
time,
stage.
like, talking about tournaments and like how like spectatorship and like media works in that moment, like I feel that different from like the NFL or like big leagues or big tournaments in traditional sports and whatever. Like here, like okay, so that's this shot, and now what? Like those guys are just like hanging out. Like what's supposed to happen? Like I mean, I feel that
they're gonna have a ceremony to like give them.
No,
the
yeah,
trophy
sure,
and
but
stuff.
like it feels that someone should have already like transition to the casters or something, or like someone from the
they're talking right now.
No, I know, but like they're just like they are like standing and like looking at each other. It doesn't feel that like some like that's I my point
Evo
is
does a better job of like making it feel like the champion has just won.
Yeah,
right?
like maybe lights should come off or like sparkles or like fire. I don't know.
Here, let me show you.
You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean though. Like that kind of
Here,
fanfare
let me-
that comes with the sporting event being done.
Yeah,
right? Like that's just kind of like traditional for the genre.
Let me I'll show you. So this is Hungrybox wins Evo 2016. This was like a much better example.
Armada plays.
All right. Like they have the zoom in, right?
Yeah.
And like
so much better.
Wait, is that the? Oh, it's not over. Okay, one second. Let me go. I want to go to the very end.
You know how they look to each other, like during like the shoulder to shoulder thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels more exciting, I guess.
So this is.
Oh my god.
Okay. So like this is a very iconic moment in the Smash community. So then like he wins, and like he's like just overcome with emotion. Like he hasn't won anything in a long time. And like we're like look at the camera's like flying around.
Yeah.
They got Jigglypuff, his character is blazing, projected on the thing.
This guy.
The greatest Smash player of all time, loser. Like literally, that's Armada. He's like he is literally the best. And like the thing is going, and like obviously like
so
the player
good.
themselves is the spectacle.
And they have the lights, you know.
Yeah, with the lights, you got the zoom in, you got like,
but it's
you know,
like
and they immediately go into the into the ceremony, right?
Yeah.
But and there's the the stadium. It's like
Oh,
they didn't immediately. I think it cut to that because this is a compilation.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's destroyed.
Armada?
Yeah.
I mean, Armada's probably pretty happy overall, though. He's one of the...
But look at, go back, like,
he didn't look
30
very
seconds.
happy.
Yeah.
Like,
that's kind of...
Oh, no, literal frown face.
No, play it.
I'm trying! So, but I just want to be fair to Armada. Armada, even when he wins Evo, like here, let's go.
Looks like
it kind of looks like that.
Okay.
I mean, no, it's not that bad. Evo 2017.
It's not that bad. Oh, the same casters.
He just won right now.
Yeah.
He just finished winning.
Okay, so like he has a pop off. He gets really excited, but we'll wait until
in partnership with Nintendo.
That's interesting.
That'll be it. Well, I guess there we go. And so like he has like a little pop off. He like, but like, you know, like he doesn't seem as excited.
Yeah,
he's just
not
like
crying.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
There we
what's
go.
up.
But he's more self-centered. Yeah. Like,
yeah, he's more of an introvert, you know.
Yeah.
But like, look at that, like you know. Like you could
Oh my
not
God,
tell.
Pat.
Like look at like who won this tournament just now.
Unsure.
Like so like you know like the player who wins like Zayn popped off. He was really excited. But you know a lot of times the spectacle in these moments right is the player who just won, right? And you want them to have that really visceral emotional reaction. If whether you're the player, the audience, or whatever, you know, it just helps.
Yeah.
You know, there's Hbox. He comes in. He's the winner from last year. You know. Who just broke down on the stage. It's much less of a nice stage than it was
like
last
someone
year.
is like just walking
Mandalay
around
Ravens.
like there's nothing like I mean because I feel that like also like team games like you have your team to, like,
everyone's
negotiate
talking
with,
each other.
you know,
Yeah.
like or he could just like run and like throw himself into the crowd, you know, like
Just leap.
Yeah.
you know
me.
this kind of stuff that like it's a big part of like sports as well.
Yeah,
you know, like,
absolutely. Yeah, like in Overwatch, they do the shake at the end of the match. Even
Yeah.
if they're miserable.
yeah, and you have the entrance, you know, like you have like the
Yeah, like the
and
team
people play
coming
with that,
in.
you know,
Yeah.
like. So for the team
Yeah.
players, team
We can talk
like
about that next
stuff
week.
is more like
Yeah.
builds more like this kind of pre and post game.
And I guess
stuff.
if you want to learn about team stuff, you're gonna have to join us next
Team
week,
stuff.
Monday, 2 to 4. Have a fantastic day.
Bye, folks.
We'll see you next week.